Welcome everyone to the L7C podcast MMA edition. Today we are going to be hitting you with our first MMA podcast of 2023, and we have the fight expert, Mr. Chuck Marlowe. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Good, good. Happy New Year, man. Happy New Year.
Yes, sir. New year, new fights, new scenarios.
So, Chuck, man, it's a new year, but we already starting this year off with controversy in the UFC, man.
Yes, we are. I mean, new year, but same shit, just from different people.
So, for the people not knowing what we're talking about, the head man himself, Dana White, got himself into some trouble. Chuck, what happened to him?
Well, he got caught at a New Year's party at a club in Vegas. Looked like he got pushed by his wife, a little slap, something in there. And then he went on to go about his way with three more slaps and a push back at her. Um, Very physical altercation in the club. Sorry for any people who go through any domestic violence or any situations like that. But yes, it was a domestic violence situation. Unfolded in front of everyone's eyes. No charges pressed there in the event because they decided to handle that internally within the family. But yes, Dana has got caught in 4K or 720p, if you want to say, because that wasn't high quality, but we all know it was him.
Mm-hmm. So, Chuck, when you first saw that, what was your initial reactions?
I wasn't surprised. I was just more like, oh, okay, about time they caught him. I don't feel like this is the first instance. I mean, it doesn't look like it was the first instance. I mean, he is a combat sports president. I mean, he's around this all the time. He trains in it. Musclehead probably did steroids at one point. I wouldn't be surprised. And then there's just a lot of aggression out of Dana. I mean, with the level of position that he's in, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that if this was the first or the multiple instance like this, if this wasn't the first time. So to me, it wasn't something where I was caught off guard. I was just like, wow. I was just like, wow, this is a shame. This is a disgrace to the UFC. You're here and you're sitting here saying these comments about all these other fighters and hitting women and this, that, the other. But look at you, supposed to be leading by example, and you're over here doing the same thing. So it's just, I hate one thing I hate the most is hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm.
If you're supposed to be there and you're supposed to be a leader and you're saying all these things, if you're saying, oh, this isn't right, I think this is shameful, this, that, the other, and you're over here doing it on the same hand, you're a fucking idiot. You're an absolute fucking idiot.
Yeah, he had a press conference today, even
Yep.
talking about saying he's not going to be punished or step down as UFC president. He said there's no bigger punishment than the public scorn I'm gonna get from everybody and like the disappointment from my
I mean,
kids.
of course, that's what you're going to say if you're in that position of power.
Yes.
I mean, you're the one who slaps down the law at the end of the day for the most part. So of course you're not going to sit there and say, of course you're not going to punish yourself. I mean, but you'd go punish some other fighter. You'd punish John Jones. You'd punish plenty of other people that you've seen get caught. You punish Greg Hardy. You punish. There's multiple other fighters I can go on this list, but you wouldn't punish yourself. You have fighters that are literally not in the UFC anymore because of it. But look at you. I mean, there's definitely more worse cases than your case for sure. I mean, I don't think yours was on the level of some cases like John Jones or I can't think of his name, orange hair, carrot top. He's in jail now though. But there's a lot of other cases that you see that you got fighters getting punished for, but you're not going to punish yourself. I think that's cowardly.
Yeah, man, and I don't like how he's skating through this because, like you said, if this was one of his fighters, they would have been looking like their careers would have been over. ESPN would have been all over him, and everyone's feel like giving him a pass.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people say a lot of different things. They're like, "Oh, well, it wasn't that hard," or it wasn't, and she slapped him first, or I mean, I I don't know. I was raised differently. I have a different mindset on things because I've seen different things before. I never lay your hands on a woman in any situation, even if she's full out swinging on you. You can use it in so many different situations. You are literally around a bunch of UFC fighters, Krav Maga specialists, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu specialists, Greco-Roman specialists. You could put her in any type of form of submission or hold, and you can hold her down until she calms down. I'm not saying sit there and body slam her or anything. But you could hold her and contain her. You're probably like, I think Dana's probably like what, 6'1", 2 something, like probably 230, 250.
Mm-hmm.
Nice, solid, lean muscle. Like you can contain her. You can contain her without putting your hands on her.
Yeah, my thing now is just it's going to be really interesting because unfortunately their domestic violence is going to happen again sometime down the road in UFC. And if Dana suspends, are people going to forget that when Dana did it, he got nothing? And if someone else does it, they're like, oh yeah, we got to suspend him.
Well, just like anything else that happens in the world, people will forget years down the road. It'll get brought up again. It'll definitely get brought up. There'll be the whispers in the wind. There'll be a few people who bring it up. There will be some controversy around it, but I think it will die down just like this is already dying down. And it's only been about 12 or 11 days since the event happened.
which is which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, most things nowadays, it's, oh crap, this happened. Within that span of 24 hours, people are talking, and then everyone loses interest. It's what happens nowadays. People forgive and forget.
Right. Right. Chuck, going from Dana, because obviously you're not gonna forget what Dana did on New Year's Eve to con for the world to see again. If this was someone else, people would talk about how they shouldn't have a career anymore. It was one of the fighters. But going forward, Chuck, what's on the horizon for 2023 fight wise? Like, what are some
Oh
first
man,
month?
we have a lot lined up for this year. There's a lot of events down the road. I mean, heck, right now I think this weekend you got Sean Strickland versus Mavov.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the main cards. It was supposed to be Kelvin Gastelum versus Mavov, but I think Gastelum backed out to a last minute injury. Apparently he's hurt. Nothing
Mm-hmm.
new. I feel like he's pulled out of the last few of his cards lately from injuries and training camp. I mean, Gastelum will never be at the top of where he was, I think, before. He could probably maybe potentially get there if he heals his injuries and he's trying to do what he needs to do to get back to 100%. If that's the case, good job. But if not, he may not be back in a title shot anytime soon. Yeah, UFC 283 on January 21st, 1 week after. That's Glover versus Hill. February 5th, you got Lewis versus Spivak. Hopefully that fight happens and Lewis doesn't pull out. I mean, there's been so much going on with him. He's been on a downtrend lately. I mean, I don't even, well, no, he's still ranked. He's fallen down the slope since he's been on this losing streak. And then you have UFC 284 on February 11th, which is Islam versus Volkanovski, which I can't wait to do the pod on that one. That one is going to be nuts. Hopefully they'll get one more fight in there to load that card up. But we have a few fights scheduled out for this year where it's going to be pretty loaded. UFC 285 in March, still to be determined who's going to do that headline. Maybe John Jones.
Well, speaking of him, what are the new rumors about John Jones in 2023?
Him and Francis apparently. That's what everyone's been talking about for like a month or two in the past. I mean, they've been talking about it way before then. You're seeing a lot of contract talks apparently, and a lot of more hype around it now, and speculation, hopefully, because now I think John finally got to where he wants to be weight wise. He's finally putting on. He has the weight. He's had the weight on for a while, but I think he's finally getting the weight molded how he wanted to. Because I think he wanted to put on a lot of weight and get to the same size as Francis. But I think he also wanted to make sure that it was nice, lean muscle. Because I think what he did originally was he put on the weight, but it was like bulking season, and now he finally did the cut, and he's working on sharpening his quickness and everything else, and getting accustomed to that weight that he has on, so that way he can fight at an elite level at heavyweight division.
Okay. 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 What other, when you think of him, because whenever that fight actually does happen, obviously it's going to be the main event on any pay-per-view card that's going on. But are there other fighters who you're looking at in 2023 like, oh, this is a year they make a big splash or they remind people who they are? Like, what fighters should we be on the lookout for this year?
Well, one that I definitely have in mind is Kamara Usman.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we already know what he's capable of. We've seen his run, but when you lose like that, you lose the way he did in a fight you were winning. I think that drives you insane. I think it drives you to another level of motivation. I understand you hit all the milestones, you hit all the check boxes, you did everything you were supposed to do, and you set records. You've done this, but I think that doesn't sit well with you. Khamzat Chimaev, he's in that same division, but look for him to try and make a shot at that too. That man's reckless. He's an animal. As much as I don't like that weight cut situation last year, look for him to do some things. One other fight or a few other fighters I've been thinking about. You have Jamal Hill. We're going to highlight him. I'm not even going to get too deep into detail, but I mean, he's already about to go for a title.
Mm.
Alex Pereira, it's time for him to defend that title and show why he why he has the belt, why he deserves to be the one that's holding that belt. So let's see what he can do with that belt. Islam is trying to make a name for himself. Well, I mean, he's already made a name for himself, but I think he's about to try and do a double belt.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't wait to see what happens with that. That's going to be nuts if he gets a double belt and see what type of run he can go on. That's one of those historic things you see when you look at the DCs, the Conor McGregors, John Jones, the people who hold on to two belts. That's going to be interesting to see if that can happen for him. I want to see what Max Holloway does in the bounce back year. I mean, we know who he is. We know what he's done before in his historic career, and he's so young. So I want to see what he does to come back. Sean O'Malley, see if we can get him a title shot this year. Some other fight. There's a lot of fighters. I can go on. But those are like some high level fighters who I think are going to try and make some shockwaves this year. Hopefully Brandon Moreno too, going back for his belt. I know he wants to get that belt back against Davison. So can't wait to see. There's a lot of different. I'm talking just high level. I mean, there's a lot of lower level fighters I can start talking about. I mean, when I say lower level, I'm not saying they're the worst, like they're bottom tier list, but like there's so many like people within those top 15 rankings for each division that can really go on some historic run. And one of those people, Marlon Cheeto Bear, I want to see what he does in that bantamweight division too. There's just so many high level fighters this year, and I can't wait to see what they do. This is going to be a good year, I feel like, for the UFC.
So, Chuck, obviously in the state of Ohio, New Year's Day hit and sports betting became legal. So now this is your first time as an MMA expert on the podcast that you are now legally able to bet on these fights. How does that make you feel?
Oh, I'm excited. I'm ready to see. Hey, look, y'all have heard my picks before, and y'all have seen my picks hit. I mean, I'm not saying, hey, if you lose money because of me, look, it's just my personal opinion and personally what I see based off my fights. But I mean, if you're going off of what my history says and my track record for the fights that I pick, I mean, pretty clean and spotless record there with that. I mean, I probably had about 3 or 4, maybe a little bit more wrong, but majority of my picks tend to be right. So you're trying to make some money, take a listen. You can go with your gut decision at the end of the day. Make an educated decision based off of what I say, though.
Okay. When you're going to make your first bet on the UFC?
Oh, this weekend. This weekend.
Right off the bat.
First UFC event. Yes, I got to make one. Off the rip.
Oh, man.
I already know who I'm betting on.
Are you doing individual UFC bet? You gonna parlay it with fights? Like how
I'm
are
gonna
you gonna be
do
doing it?
I'm gonna do some individuals, and then I'm gonna do a parlay for the whole main card and maybe some prelim ones eventually down
Oh.
the road. I'm trying to stack it up. I want, you know me. You've seen some of my parlays. I didn't get to be on the parlay or the gambling podcast,
Mhm.
but you see my parlays. I make some crazy legs. Like I have 13 leg parlays that I could hit for like 10,000. I like to try and go for the big money,
I
small
like
money, and try and win big.
Hey man, I like it. I like it. I can't wait to hear how you do now with officially sports betting on the UFC and telling us what that looks like because I have not looked at what it's like to bet on fights yet.
You can go by rounds. You can go by KO, submission. If you want to go full 5 round fight, 3 round fight, decision,
Hmm.
scorecards. Um, yeah, look at the over unders.
Hmm.
You have so much. I think you can do like strikes and stuff. And you can, I think you can do for like the number of strikes landed. It's pretty wild what the parlays you can probably get combined there. I have to take a look at it this week, but I know based off of the history because I tried to do it back in the past when it wasn't, and yeah, you can do some pretty crazy bets.
Chuck, what's Mr. Paul doing? I know you're not really one of his biggest fans, but what's he doing right? What's he always for 2023?
I'm not the biggest Jake Paul fan, that is correct, but I mean, I'm interested in what he's doing. I mean, he's caught my eye this year. He shook me up a little bit with that move. I didn't see that coming, and I'm
Hmm.
actually happy he did it because I'm tired of him beating up on old men and retired fighters. I'm
Hmm.
ready to see if he can actually fight against someone that's good.
Hmm.
I'm ready to see if he can actually put the money where his mouth is. Talking shit against all these UFC fighters, all these MMA people, and we'll see. We will see what you can do. There's a lot of people already ready to see what he can do, and challenging him, like Anthony Pettis. That's one of the other PFL fighters. There's a few other ones like Kevin Lee, I think.
Hmm.
Um, there's a few people who are ready to see what he's ready to do. So I'm interested myself. We'll see how real, like how good. I mean, he has a wrestling background from Lakewood. I forget if it's Lakewood or yeah, I think it's Lakewood, Ohio. So I mean, he was a really good wrestler, both him and his brother. So we'll see if he can do it. But I think if he puts two and two together, it's different from boxing, and it's different from fighting against older fighters too that were all MMA background into boxing. So I am ready to see what can happen there. He's probably obviously been training in that realm for him to make that move.
Hmm.
So we'll see.
Chuck, there was actually another fight that you wanted to highlight before we in the 2023 year. You also wanted to talk about hit some boxing with Davis and Garcia.
Oh yeah, Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, we're combat sports here.
Yeah.
Um, I I saw the last boxing match. I caught a little bit of a glimpse of the end of that with Tank and the other Garcia. Man, Tank is he has power in his shots. They call him Mini Mike Tyson for a reason. I'm ready to see, but the speed of Ryan Garcia is crazy. The combinations, the way he puts it together with the speed, and
Hmm.
then just the power that Tank has. I'm just ready to see how that battle goes. I don't really want to hit on it too much because I'm not a boxing expert, but like I'm getting more into boxing, watching some of these box fights. I always watched boxing when I was little, and that's what I like about striking and trying to put that into MMA. But I'm intrigued. They could caught my eye, and that's going to be a big fight of the year. So I put my money on Tank, but I'm not I'm not counting out Garcia completely.
Okay. Okay. Are you, if you could make a match of any of boxing, UFC that you can see in 2023, that if you make it right now, it's confirmed, what would you want it to be?
That it would actually happen, or like
That it
that
would
I would
actually
want to see
happen.
Oh, that would actually happen. Boxing and UFC. I mean, you would always have to put Jake Paul in that mix because I mean, probably not now because actually, I don't know. That's a good one because I mean, when Jake Paul was doing it, like that would have been something to actually see. I don't know if Logan's healed up from his injury, but Logan Paul versus somebody, some retired old man that used to be in the UFC, I could see that happening for sure. Not sure what fighter, but maybe Donald Cowboy Cerrone or somebody. That's a fight that I could see happen. It's not a high level one that everybody wants to see, but it's definitely something I can see happening.
So then, like UFC, what match would you want to see? We haven't mentioned him. Would you want to see a Connor back, or like what would you want to see in UFC? Like a dream UFC match that you would be able to see?
Well, Mr. Royds is not coming back because of steroids. I don't know if you've seen the recent picture that this man has posted. I This man is jacked, but yes, that man is on steroids. His whole jaw structure and facial structure has changed. Um, I know a steroid body looks like from a mile away. That man has been on some PEDs for sure,
Mhm.
and that's why he is retired officially. He's no longer able to be tested by USADA. So that man started shooting up. But I would love to see Conor McGregor versus Kamaru Usman or Conor McGregor and Khabib just both running back. That would be a fight I would love to see happen again. That obviously probably wouldn't happen, but a dream UFC match that I could actually see. Maybe John Jones and DC again. Run it back one time. I could see that happening. I could see DC coming out of retirement to fight John Jones again in the heavyweight. If John gets that title from Francis, I could see that happening. That's
Man.
something I would book, and I guarantee everybody would pay money. They would pay big money, and Dana would sell that shit everywhere.
Oh yeah, that would be beyond anything that we have probably ever seen if it ever did happen again.
Yep, that'd be like a probably mid. That'd be a summer card for sure. Summer or late fall time frame after everything settles. Maybe
Hmm.
even late December as a for the final card of the year.
Hmm.
Send
Yeah,
it out with a banger.
I agree. I agree. I agree. Chuck, man, anything else on the first pod of 2023?
Not much, just these next cards coming up. You got UFC 283 coming up this next weekend after this weekend
Hmm.
after Strickland versus Imavov. But I mean, we really don't have to hit that one because it's not one that everyone's really going to go and see. I mean, Strickland's just trying to bounce back after
How
the
about a
loss.
how about a fight to look for on that card? If you're gonna watch 283, what should be the one fight you watch?
Um, the one fight that you do watch that, oh yeah, this is easy. Figueredo versus Moreno. That's the one everybody better watch. That's the one. If you're gonna tune in for one fight, Figueredo versus Moreno for sure. That's a no brainer. It's even 110 minus 110 odds for both fighters. Um, you've seen the last fight. That fight everyone thought maybe should have been a draw or that Moreno should have won.
Hmm.
Um, it's obvious what fight they should book, and that it should be that fight hands down, without a doubt.
Okay, okay. Chuck, anything else?
Um, Not really. Just look out for Jamal Hill versus Glover on that card. Ready to see my boy Jamal Hill get a title. That's what I want to see. They're fighting for that vacant title. Um, I think that's going to be a pretty. I think it's going to be a one-sided fight, in my opinion.
Hmm.
I think. I think Glover still has it. I think well, he obviously does because he had the belt not too long ago. But I think Jamal just has the athleticism and everything else to just take over and win that fight.
Okay. With that being said, thank you everyone for listening to L7C podcast. UFC Combat is back in 2023. Excited to have Chuck on. He's going to be leading us through the way. If you were just listening to him for his insight, now you have a whole other reason to listen to him because, again, sports betting is legal here if you're listening in Ohio, and it's probably legal wherever else you're listening at, but especially in Ohio. And like Chuck said, if you listen to his previous episodes, he has a really good track history of hitting these fights. Anytime a fight happens and Chuck calls it, you see it on Twitter. Make sure you're following him there as well. I'll post his Twitter stuff in the description. But the guy knows his stuff. So make sure you're checking him out on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe to his YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to his Twitch. The guy's really out here. He's not just UFC. Really dabbles in football as well. You've listened to him a couple times on the NFL pod, but he really plays Madden. He's really insightful about that game. So check him out on all platforms. And with that being said, thank you everyone for listening to the L7C podcast. You guys take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.